Chapter 456, Jian Wushuang displays his moves again. Chapter 456, Jian Wushuang displays his moves again. Jian Wushuang had remained at one side of the battlefield and not gotten involved all this time while the countless lords and experts from the two large camps were maniacally tearing at each other's throats. The battling lords had noticed his presence as well, but nobody bothered about him after seeing that he was only a Saint Realm expert. It's certainly rare to see so many lords battling against each other and displaying all sorts of skills. Jian Wushuang laughed mildly. Some of the skills being used by these lords were extremely odd and unorthodox, causing Jian Wushuang to be astounded. This was especially so for the recently arrived Myriad Islands Lord. As soon as he came, he casually waved his hand to set up two formations which immediately turned the situation on the battlefield around. This skill was truly impressive. It was apparent at present that Drifting Blood Marquis camp had fallen into an absolute disadvantage on the battlefield. In the centermost of the battlefield, particularly Loftiness Lord had gradually become unable to cope with the frenzied offensive of Demon Soul Lord. If he was killed, the Dao weapon would fall into the hands of Pale Moon Marquis camp at once. For good or bad, I'm a member of Drifting Blood Marquis camp. It's not my style to watch on from the sidelines. Jian Wushuang thought to himself, laughing. When he saw a figure on the battlefield, a faint and strange smile emerged at the corner of his mouth, following which his figure drifted forth toward the battlefield as well. On the battlefield. Swish, swish, swish. A pitch-black spear shadow pierced forth like a flood dragon bursting out of the sea. The gray-robed weathered elder, Black Hill Lord's, expression was frosty as his eyes fixed upon his opponent, a novice lord from Drifting Blood Marquis camp. There are too many lords and too many people who are stronger than me on the battlefield. I have to be careful and make sure that nobody else is targeting me. While in the midst of battle, Black Hill Lord kept a vigilant eye on his surroundings. There were many intermediate and advanced lords among the more than 50 battling lords. Novice lords like him were the weakest participants on the battlefield, and naturally their chances of defeat were very high. That was why he did not dare to loosen up one bit. Right at this moment, a soft wind-breaking sound was suddenly heard from behind Black Hill Lord's back, and it was accompanied by an icy gush of killing intent. The killing intent caused Black Hill Lord to instinctively turn his body over forcefully, only to see Jian Wushuang brandishing a long sword and thrusting it at his chest. The thrust was extremely fast and its angle of approach was tricky like none other. Had he reacted just a little slower, it would have easily perforated his chest. "It's you." Black Hill Lord glared at Jian Wushuang and recognized him. He had previously encountered Jian Wushuang right in this inner layer channel, and they even exchanged blows. The battle strength which the latter exerted back then had shocked him. Had a gold-armored puppet not appeared in time, it would have been uncertain whether he could escape alive. He twisted his body as soon as he saw Jian Wushuang's strike coming at him, causing the sword light to brush past his shoulders. "Your response is pretty fast, eh?" Jian Wushuang grinned. "What a close shave." Black Hill Lord heaved in silence, but suddenly, an inexplicable sense of danger rose from the bottom of his heart once again. Although Jian Wushuang's strike had missed, a beam of dazzling light was now gradually emerging from between his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang's glabella seemed to split apart at this moment. An absolutely terrifying sword essence surged forth like a streak of thunderbolt. It was the first-grade sword technique, Mind's Eye. It was performed by consolidating sword essence in one's heart before releasing at the crucial moment. The longer the time that the sword essence was consolidated, the more powerful it would be. The last time Jian Wushuang displayed the Mind's Eye sword technique was while he was in Nanyang continent, and that was nearly 4 years ago. Since then, his glabella had been continuously storing different types of sword essence, of which the one he was currently displaying was merely the weakest variation. Despite it being the weakest, Black Hill Lord was completely not in time to react when it shot forth. His throat was thus perforated by the sword shadow, and his body collapsed sapless to the ground. Black Hill Lord dead. Although the fighting on the battlefield was exceptionally intense, there were not many lords who had fallen, and therefore every slain lord would garner a lot of attention. Black Hill Lord's death too attracted many eyeballs. "Another one is dead. Is that Black Hill Lord? He's just a novice lord, little wonder he's dead. The person who killed him, huh?" When it was discovered that the person who killed Black Hill Lord was Jian Wushuang, everyone on the entire battlefield was astonished, and they began to look perplexedly at the swordsman. It was him? This fella? He was the one who killed Black Hill Lord. The facial expressions of the lords present turned odd involuntarily. Though they had noticed Jian Wushuang's presence earlier on, who would care about a Saint Realm expert when most of everyone else were lords? That was until he killed a lord from Pale Moon Marquis camp. Swordsman? Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord were shocked too. They never imagined that Jian Wushuang would be capable of killing a lord. Though he had accomplished it via sneak attacks, it was nevertheless very impressive already. When Myriad Islands Lord of Pale Moon Marquis camp saw what happened, he immediately grunted, "Kill that little one." A shrill wind-breaking sound was heard. Jian Wushuang saw a burly man appear beside him holding a saber and striking it at his brain. He judged from the man's aura that the latter was an intermediate lord. "Swordsman, fall back." Iron Saber Lord shouted urgently. With a move of his body, Jian Wushuang left a residual shadow where he was standing while his real body shifted backward. He seemed very calm as he did so. "Everyone from Drifting Blood Marquis camp, get ready." Jian Wushuang lingered in the middle of a void while his powerful voice diffused throughout the battlefield. Get ready? For what? The experts from Drifting Blood Marquis camp were puzzled. But right at this moment, it was time for Jian Wushuang to display his true skill. An immense gush of killing intent soared like a tide from his body and immediately transformed into a winding blood river which extended outward. At the same time, immaterial sword realms burst forth rapidly from his body. After activating the Bloodfire Ring, the Bloodfire domain began to spread out as well. Road to the Underworld Hundredfold Realm and Bloodfire Domain. The combination of these three realms caused the entire battlefield to be shrouded within a blood river in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang stood in the absolute middle of the blood river. His gaze, which was ice-cold and carried not a shred of emotion, swept across the crowd of experts. Realms suppress. A chilly cry was forcefully uttered from Jian Wushuang's mouth. Chapter 457, An Exceptional Saint Realm Expert. Chapter 457, An Exceptional Saint Realm Expert. Like a giant pair of pliers clamping down hard on something, the blood river tumbled toward the lords of Pale Moon Marquis camp in no time. When the lords first saw the blood river appear, they felt somewhat astounded before the suppression took effect. At this moment, their bodies forcibly sank down, and the weaker ones among them nearly fell off their feet. Gosh! How is this possible? This is... The lords of Pale Moon Marquis camp were stupefied. All they could feel at present was that an unfathomable strength was suppressing them, as if miring them deep. Their bodies were heavily locked down. What a frightening realm! The lords of Drifting Blood Marquis camp were also shocked. Though the blood river did not suppress them, they could perceive that its suppressive force was extremely strong. They thus cast bewildered looks toward Jian Wushuang. It was very difficult for them to imagine that such a frightening realm, which even advanced lords were being shackled by, could have been summoned by a Saint Realm expert whom they did not take seriously hitherto. Swordsman? Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord were astonished like never before. My goodness! Even I, an advanced lord, have suffered a strength reduction of nearly 30% due to this realm's suppressive force. Despite sinking into and being suppressed by the realm like the other lords, Myriad Islands Lord revealed a face of outrage instead. He followed up by howling wildly, "Kill him quick!" Swish! Swish! Two beams of flowing light shot explosively toward Jian Wushuang. Pale Moon Marquis lords were mindful of how strong the realms summoned by Jian Wushuang were, and how strong the realm's impact upon the battle situation was. If Jian Wushuang was not killed, the advantage which they had built up thanks to their two formations would most certainly crumble, and they might even fall into an absolute disadvantage. Therefore, as soon as they could, the two lords closest in distance to the swordsman went on him. They were both intermediate lords. 7 Luminaries Lord, protect the swordsman quickly. Iron Saber Lord shouted when he saw what was happening. 7 Luminaries Lord was the person from Drifting Blood Marquis contingent who was closest in distance to Jian Wushuang. He was also an intermediate lord. As soon as he heard Iron Saber Lord shouting, he sped toward the swordsman, but because he was unaccompanied and acted later than the two enemies, he did not have absolute confidence that he could intercept them. However, what he never imagined was that instead of retreating, Jian Wushuang would meet the two opposing lords head-on. Is he crazy? 7 Luminaries Lord was completely stunned. Swordsman. Iron Saber Lord was similarly taken aback. In fact, every lord on the battlefield was in disbelief, regardless of which camp they were from. A Saint Realm expert, being murderously charged at by two intermediate lords, would choose to meet them head-on instead of retreating. He has definitely gone mad. Drifting Blood Marquis lords could not help shaking their heads as if they had already foreseen what the result would be. Though everyone else believed that Jian Wushuang had gone completely mad, he remained extraordinarily calm. My battle strength is definitely no weaker than an intermediate lord's and in fact would be among their best. And with the realm's support, just two intermediate lords aren't enough to drive me back. A sparkle flashed in his eyes, and the two giant sword soul phantoms behind him rose. The triple kill sword in his hand knowingly emitted a heavy amount of sword essence. Streams of immense spiritual power gathered on his body, which was also packed with frightening muscular strength. Fixing his attention on the two intermediate lords, Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and violently drew his sword. Second move of the heart-killing sword technique. With a simple thrust of the triple kill sword, he transformed it into a beam of lightning which pierced forth. It carried a resolute and tireless essence. The moment it appeared, heaven and earth seemed to move for it. Through Jian Wushuang's all-out exertion, the power of the technique all the more reached an unbelievable level. The two lords in front of Jian Wushuang also began to display their killing moves. One of them brandished a sledgehammer which struck ferociously like a giant mountain toward Jian Wushuang. The other person held a scarlet longsword. He raised both arms and slashed forth with an earth-splitting vigor. Both of them had also summoned their utmost strength. In a twinkling, the three different offensives, which were incomparably powerful, collided with each other in the void of the battlefield. Boom! A harsh roar was heard. Waves of residual energy swept in all directions from the spot where the offensives collided. After this exchange, Jian Wushuang retreated forcefully, and only came to a standstill a few dozen feet back. As for the two lords, they remained within the void and showed no signs of retreating. But suddenly, blarg, blarg, the two lords spat blood from their mouths and their complexions turned ghastly pale at once. The sight of this caused the lords from both camps to be dumbfounded. It was already considered a miracle when Jian Wushuang killed a lord by using a skill of his Saint Realm level earlier on. However, that was achieved through a sneak attack and contained a measure of luck, and thus it was grudgingly acceptable to them. This time Jian Wushuang had once again summoned those terrifying realms. It was normal for people of average strength to possess a few of such unique and powerful skills. For instance, Myriad Islands Lord was highly proficient and terrifyingly accomplished in the use of formations. Jian Wushuang's possession of such frightening realm techniques hence remained within the range of what they could accept. But how about now? This had been a head-on exchange. Jian Wushuang had alone confronted two intermediate lords. The result was that the two lords were beaten until they spat blood, whereas Jian Wushuang simply retreated unharmed. What did this say? Pust. The lords from both camps gasped. It was only at this moment that they understood that this Saint Realm expert was an exceptional one. That little fella, Silver Wing Lord revealed a look of utter disbelief. It should be known that, in the beginning, he had believed that Jian Wushuang was essentially seeking death by coming to the inner area. He also remembered that Jian Wushuang once told him that if he ever ran into trouble, Jian Wushuang himself might be able to help. Neither Silver Wing Lord nor Iron Saber Lord took these words seriously back then, but now. Chapter 458 Black Yuan Lord. Chapter 458, Black Yuan Lord. This fella has inflicted heavy damage on two intermediate lords working together. His battle strength is stronger than mine. Silver Wing Lord heaved a sigh. Swordsman. Iron Saber Lord appeared beside Jian Wushuang and looked at him. Are you all right? I'm fine. Jian Wushuang laughed indifferently before he then said in an announcing voice, Everyone feel free to go fight against the enemies. I'll do my best to help you with my realms. Upon hearing this, the lords of Drifting Blood Marquis camp revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. Haha, let's go kill. Under such strong suppression by the realms, it's rather impressive that Pale Moon Marquis lords can still exert 7/10 of their battle strength, and aren't too afraid. The realms of this swordsman, who is from our camp, is a notch stronger than Myriad Islands Lord's two formations. Fight. The fighting began anew immediately. Because of the presence of Jian Wushuang's realms, the advantage which Drifting Blood Marquis' camp had was completely turned around this time. After all, when the full suppressive force of those realms was in effect, even advanced lords would have their strength reduced by more than 3/10. while the restrictions imposed on intermediate and novice lords was even greater than that. It could thus be said that the strength of the entire Pale Moon Marquis camp was greatly diminished. As for Myriad Islands Lord, the two formations which he set up were, due to a lack of time, simpler and less powerful than usual. The boost which they provided to Pale Moon Marquis camp was far less than the suppression which Jian Wushuang's realms was causing to the lords. As a result, Pale Moon Marquis camp not only lost the advantage they previously had but now found themselves in a disadvantageous position. Take Demon Soul Lord, who was standing in the centermost of the battlefield for instance. Previously she was so close to defeating and killing Loftiness Lord, but because of Jian Wushuang's realms her strength was restrained considerably, giving Loftiness Lord the chance to catch his breath. Moreover, an advanced lord from Drifting Blood Marquis camp came to partner Loftiness Lord, and she was thus no longer feared by the latter. Damn it, it's all because of that Saint Realm expert. Every one of the lords from Pale Moon Marquis camp was incensed like never before. They had never imagined that their originally comfortable advantage would be nullified by a small Saint Realm expert from the enemy side. They had never taken him seriously before. But now Jian Wushuang had become key to the entire situation. Pale Moon Marquis camp had thought several times about killing him, but because he was being protected by Iron Saber Lord and another advanced lord from Drifting Blood Marquis camp, as well as because of his own exceptional battle strength, their attempts ended in failure each time. Right then, a black-robed figure emerged from a side channel and appeared on the battlefield. It sped immediately toward the centermost of the battlefield. There, Demon Soul Lord and Loftiness Lord were intensely engaged in a fight. They suddenly felt a shrill and powerful wind blowing at them. Who's this? Demon Soul Lord immediately turned and looked, only to find a fist filled with purple thunderbolts punching its way through the air directly toward her head. Although the terrifying fist had not struck her yet, its momentum alone caused palpitations in her, a superior lord's, heart. Without hesitation, she transformed into a ghost and quickly shifted backward. Boom. The giant fist struck powerfully onto the void, causing the latter to shake violently and forming a blast wave which swept out forcibly. The blast wave forced back two intermediate lords who were busy fighting by the side. When the gaseous wave dissipated, a black-robed figure gradually appeared on the battlefield. The entire battlefield quietened down upon the appearance of the black-robed figure. Many lords looked toward the new arriver. He dressed fully in black, had a head of messy purple hair, and kept an uneven mustache. His jet-black eyes were incomparably profound, and in the deepest region of his pupils circulated a streak of purple thunderbolt. Black Yuan Lord. Demon Soul Lord's countenance changed upon recognizing the arriver. Similarly, the expressions of the lords from Pale Moon Marquis camp turned unsightly. In contrast, the lords from Drifting Blood Marquis camp revealed joyful expressions upon seeing the man. Among the many lords from Drifting Blood Marquis camp, Black Yuan Lord was, in terms of strength, rated as one of the top 3 superior lords. It should be known that there were hundreds of lords under the command of Drifting Blood Marquis. Only a portion of them had come to seize back the cave mansion, and many were still on their way. There were thus only 1 or 2 superior lords of the Six Cloud Realm in attendance from either camp. And among the superior lords who were present, Demon Soul Lord, who was from Pale Moon Marquis camp, was considered extremely powerful already. However, she was clearly a notch inferior to Black Yuan Lord. The latter possessed a matchlessly terrifying body which was recognized as the most powerful one in both camps combined. Even the bodies of Drifting Blood Marquis and Pale Moon Marquis themselves could probably not compare to his. And it was because of his powerful body that his battle strength was exceptionally terrifying. That's none other than Black Yuan Lord. Jian Wushuang was currently staring fixedly at him too. The former had heard of the latter while in Bay Mo Marquis Cave Mansion. The latter had, before that, collected 15 streaks of Purple Heaven Thunderbolt from the Universal Thunderbolt pool in said cave mansion, and thereby developed his terrifying body. Rumor has it that Black Yuan Lord, who is considered to have the strongest body among the 2 large camps, had taken in 15 streaks of Purple Heaven Thunderbolt from the Universal Thunderbolt pool, after which his body became comparable in power to a 2nd-grade magic weapon. Subsequently, he was said to have obtained several opportunities which enhanced his body's strength to an entirely new level. I wonder whose body is stronger between him and me. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He had absolute confidence in his own body. His body was already comparable to a superior 2nd-grade magic weapon. This was why, even as a Saint Realm expert, His power was on par with that of an intermediate lord. A powerful aura swept forth from Black Yuan Lord's body after he appeared. Loftiness Lord. He opened his mouth and spoke in a chilly voice. Black Yuan Lord. Loftiness Lord walked up to him donning a slightly respectful expression. Hand the Tao weapon to me, Black Yuan Lord said. Loftiness Lord nodded and without hesitation, handed the blood-red spear he was holding to Black Yuan Lord. After he had received the weapon and while using it to fight against experts from Pale Moon Marquis camp, he was sent a message from Spirit Lord informing him to hand the Tao weapon to Black Yuan Lord upon the latter's arrival. Tao weapon. Clutching the blood-red spear in his hand, Black Yuan Lord waited and nodded to himself. Then, with a wave of his hand, he kept the blood-red spear into an interspatial ring. Chapter 459, Something Unforeseen. Chapter 459, Something Unforeseen. Black Yuan Lord only began to look around after doing all these. Demon Soul Lord. The latter was the first person he looked toward. His voice, which was broad and seemed to contain a special magical power, rang out on the battlefield. This Tao weapon is now in my hands. If you're not happy about that, come at me as you will. I'll be glad to entertain. After he finished speaking, the lords from Marquis Tsanghue's camp could not but become silent, and their facial complexions became rather unsightly. They were well aware that if the Tao weapon was in Loftiness Lord's hands, they would have some hope of obtaining it by fighting. However, now that it had fallen into Black Yuan Lord's hands, they would have to kill him in order to obtain the weapon. However, not only was he extremely strong, but his body was acknowledged to be number one among both camps. Even if the two marquises personally worked together, they would not have absolute confidence about killing him. And without the marquises, they were utterly incapable of killing him, and naturally would not be able to take the weapon. Black Yuan Lord. Demon Soul Lord spoke, clenching her teeth. You ought to know that my Marquis considers the long spear to be a magic weapon. The Tao weapon you just received suits him perfectly. I know. Black Yuan Lord nodded slowly. I'll eventually pass this Tao weapon to Marquis Piaoxue. Your Marquis shall have to discuss it with him. Demon Soul Lord's face sank and she said little else. The lords from Marquis Tsanghue's camp were now gathered together. Although most of their attention was focused on Black Yuan Lord, some of them would look at Jian Wushuang from time to time. It's all because of that little fella. If not for his realms, we would certainly have killed Loftiness Lord and seized the Tao weapon before Black Yuan Lord arrived. It's the realm's fault. Lords from Marquis Tsanghue's camp glared at Jian Wushuang with resentment. Marquis Piaoxue's camp had a different reaction. Haha, our young swordsman friend. Swordsman brother, your strength is truly outstanding. Many lords clustered beside Jian Wushuang. Every one of them treated him warmly and no longer put on the airs of a lord. After all, Jian Wushuang's use of strength during the battle had already proven that he was no weaker than a lord, though he was only a Saint Realm expert, and thus he naturally won the respect of every lord. Jian Wushuang laughed and acknowledged the warmth being shown by the lords. Suddenly, boom, the cave mansion, which had already quietened, abruptly began to tremor violently. The earth trembled and the mountains swayed. The entire cave mansion seemed as though it was going to cave in completely. What's going on? The lords from both camps frowned, revealing blank and puzzled looks. Even Black Yuan Lord was currently looking around in bewilderment. The entire cave mansion was shaking badly. Amidst the reactions of the lords, a large aura began to spread gradually. Though it was clearly still a considerable distance away from the lords, they were nonetheless horrified by its impending arrival. Furthermore, it spread upward at an astonishing speed such that it reached an entirely new height in only a short time. It pervaded the entire cave mansion including the outer layer, causing experts in every corner of the cave mansion to feel its presence. The tremors gradually began to dissipate. Silence. The battlefield, where more than 50 lords and experts from the two large camps were gathered, fell into a dead silence. It took a while before some people began to talk. What exactly was that? What a widespread aura. Could it mean the creation of some treasure? Well, if this cave mansion even has a Tao weapon, then it's not surprising there are other treasures. The source of the aura is that way. Everyone looked toward the direction from which the aura originated. Let's go. Hurry up and get over there. Without any hesitation, the lords from both camps rushed in the direction of the aura's source. Black Yuan Lord and Demon Soul Lord also got moving. Swordsman and Silver Wing Lord, let's go too. Iron Saber Lord instructed. Jian Wushuang and Silver Wing Lord nodded earnestly and followed the crowd. Although the lords from the two camps had been fighting against each other just a while ago, they now had a tacit understanding to put a hold on the conflict. On the way toward the aura source, Myriad Islands Lord walked up beside Demon Soul Lord. Demon Soul Lord. Myriad Islands Lord kept his voice low so that only the former could hear his words. What's the matter? She asked. He put on a rather serious expression. Demon Soul Lord, you should be able to tell that the current situation is extremely unfavorable to our camp. Yes, I can tell. She nodded. Prior to the arrival of Black Yuan Lord, Marquis Tsanghue's camp was already at an absolute disadvantage in the tussle for the Dao weapon. After his arrival, the gap between the two camps only grew. All this is because of that Saint Realm fella named Swordsman. Demon Soul Lord's chilly eyes involuntarily looked toward Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's all because of him, Myriad Islands Lord muttered. His realm technique is very powerful, much more so than the formations which I set up temporarily. If he remains in Marquis Piaoshue's camp going forward, he'll be a huge problem for us in future tussles over treasures. Demon Soul Lord's expression turned solemn. They were not overly concerned with Jian Wushuang's strength. Even if it compared favorably to that of an advanced lord's, it would not mean much to either camp. However, his realm technique was truly something else. Such a level of realm technique was always going to be a problem for either camp if possessed by the opposing camp. Demon Soul Lord, your strength is currently the greatest among the lords of Marquis Tsanghue's camp. I came to find you to tell you to kill the swordsman when there's an opportunity, Myriad Islands Lord said in an indifferent tone. You want me to kill the swordsman? Demon Soul Lord frowned. We may know that the swordsman is important, but so does Marquis Piaoshue's camp. They'll definitely do everything possible to protect him. Even if it's me trying, chances of success are slim. Don't worry and just do your best. It doesn't matter if you don't actually kill him. All you need to do is make Marquis Piaoshue's lords focus their attention on you. Leave the swordsman to me. Myriad Islands Lord assured confidently. Oh. Demon Soul Lord glanced astonishedly at Myriad Islands Lord and subsequently nodded in agreement. Chapter 460 Palace. Chapter 460, Palace. The lords from both camps traced the aura to its source, which was not a far distance away. It turned out to be a lofty and massive palace. A palace? There's actually such a huge palace within this cave mansion. The aura originated from this palace. The lords arrived in front of the palace and raised their heads to examine the palace's exterior. The palace was completely covered in black and was incomparably massive. Within it was contained the unique and widespread aura. While this cave mansion is divided into an inner and outer layer, its real core is this palace, perhaps. Jian Wushuang mused. He was not the only person who thought so. The lords from both camps could tell that this palace was special and that there was a high chance it was the real core of the cave mansion. More importantly, if a Dao weapon could even be found in the inner layer, what could there be in the palace as the absolute core of the cave mansion? Everyone became expectant. Enter. Black Yuan Lord waved his hand and was the first to head toward the gate of the palace. Without hesitation, the lords from both camps entered the gate and stepped into the palace one after another. The palace, decorated in gold and jade, was extremely spacious within. The most noticeable object was the towering stone pillars, which each required a dozen or so people to encircle, and on which were carved numerous patterns. There was also a large number of extravagant ornaments in the palace. Look there quick. In compliance with the voice, everyone's eyes turned toward the direct front of the palace. A lofty throne was placed there, and on it sat an apparently middle-aged man who was draped in a blood-red cloak and had blood-red hair. His hands were clasped as he quietly sat upright on the throne with his eyes closed. He did not emit a trace of aura. In front of this middle-aged man with red hair stood 4 people who looked like sculptures. They were suited in purple golden armor and their hands firmly gripped huge sabers. However, their eyes were also closed. Puppet fighters. When the experts from both camps saw the man and the 4 sculptures in purple golden armor, they immediately knew that these were puppet fighters. By all probability, these were extremely powerful puppet fighters to boot. At the very least, they would be more powerful than the gold-armored puppets the lords had encountered in the inner layer. And it must be noted that the gold-armored puppets were already able to rival advanced lords. "Look at what's on their hands," a lord suddenly exclaimed. Everyone immediately looked at the palms of the puppet fighters. What they saw caused their pupils to constrict at once. A ring was worn on the left index finger of each of the 4 armored puppet fighters. Emitting a special energy wave, they were clearly interspatial rings. Yes, every one of the 4 puppet fighters was wearing an interspatial ring. Similarly, the middle-aged man with red hair wore an interspatial ring on his left index finger. Interspatial rings. The eyes of the lords from both camps began to scorch. Although the entire palace was extravagantly decorated, there were no treasures or opportunities within it except for these interspatial rings being worn by the puppet fighters. It was thus conceivable that the real treasure within the palace lied in those rings. As soon as this idea came to mind, the lords from both camps hurriedly moved nearer to the puppet fighters. However, before the lords could reach them, the eyes of the 4 puppet fighters simultaneously opened. Frosty and completely emotionless, they looked over at the lords. "Intruders. Kill?" The 4 puppet fighters simultaneously began to move after one of them uttered these words in a chilly voice. 4 beams of purple-golden flowing light pierced through the void, while at the same time 4 powerful auras began to spread. These 4 auras were each no weaker than that of a superior lord. As expected, the experts from both camps felt a sense of marvel but did not feel surprised when they saw the auras emitting from the puppet fighters. After all, the gold-armored puppets which they encountered in the inner layer were already comparable to advanced lords. It was obvious to them that these 4 golden-purple puppets would be even stronger than that, being situated in the palace which was clearly the core of the cave mansion no less. These 4 puppet fighters were on a par with superior lords. However, none of the lords imagined that the 4 puppet fighters would wave their hands as they moved. Swish, 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 swish. Beams of golden flowing light shot out from their interspatial rings. Soon, gold-armored puppets filled the palace. Gold-armored puppets. The countenances of the lords changed. Reasonably speaking, the threat of gold-armored puppets was not as great as that of golden-purple puppets. However, an endless stream of gold-armored puppets emerged from the interspatial rings, such that in the blink of an eye, more than 50 of them appeared. This, including the 2 most powerful lords, Black Yuan Lord and Demon Soul Lord, the faces of every lord from both camps sank. To these 2 camps, there was nothing frightening about facing 4 golden-purple puppets, much as they had the battle strength of 4 superior lords. But now, with the addition of more than 50 gold-armored puppets, the lords would have to face the equivalent of more than 50 advanced lords. A lineup of 4 superior lords and more than 50 advanced lords was comfortably superior to the combined strength of the 2 camps. So many? Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted as well. He was increasingly feeling the terror of the cave mansion's owner. Next, he conceived a thought which caused a vast blood river to sweep forth immediately. A combination of his 3 realms suppressed forth. Under the suppression of the realms, the speed of the gold-armored puppets was obviously reduced by a notch, while the 4 golden-purple puppets were similarly affected. These realms are not bad indeed. Black Yuan Lord glanced at Jian Wushuang and at the same time ordered, "Loftiness Lord and Iron Saber Lord, make sure you protect this fella." "Yes." Loftiness Lord and Iron Saber Lord nodded and immediately appeared beside Jian Wushuang. The 2 of them understood the importance of Jian Wushuang to Marquis Piaoshua's camp. "Everyone else follow me to kill. Our camp must obtain at least 3 of the 4 interspatial rings." Black Yuan Lord's expression was frigid. "Let's get moving." Chapter 461, Do It, Kill Swordsman. Chapter 461, Do It, Kill Swordsman. Boom. Apart from Jian Wushuang, the Loftiness Lord and the Iron Saber Lord, numerous lords of the Drifting Blood Marquis camp unleashed their powerful auras. Led by the Black Yuan Lord, they slashed toward the approaching puppet fighters. At the same time, many lords of the Pale Moon Marquis camp were also occupied. With a snort, the Myriad Islands Lord launched a series of punches to set up 2 sets of formation. Following this, the lords of the Pale Moon Marquis, led by the Demon Soul Lord, also fought their way out. The lords of both camps started to do battle. Although the lords maintained their silence and were focused on the puppet fighters, they had a tacit agreement. They would work together to kill the puppet before fighting each other for those 4 interspatial rings. The lords and the puppet fighters collided head-on. Boom, 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 boom. A terrifying roar reverberated through the palace. It was only for a short moment, but the destruction was immense. After all, even though there were a large number of puppet fighters and their battle formation was very powerful, they didn't know how to work as a team. As a result, they were unable to exploit their battle strength. On the other hand, the lords of both camps coped well with Jian Wushuang's realm and were supported by the Myriad Islands Lord's formation. Although their overall battle strength was inferior to that of the puppet fighters, they were able to exploit different fighting tactics to prevail over the puppet fighters. It did not take long for the lords to defeat a few puppet fighters. Apart from the two lords, there were other lords in the different inner layers of the cave mansions. They rushed to the scene to offer them support when they felt the palace fill with their powerful aura. Things seemed to be going downhill for the puppet fighters as more lords were arriving at the palace to join the battle. It did not take long for half of the 50 gold armor puppet fighters to be killed. This pared their number down considerably. As intended by the lords, none of the 4 golden purple puppets were destroyed. This was because the interspatial rings were in the puppet fighters and the destruction of a golden purple puppet would immediately result in a battle between the two camps. The lords preferred to terminate the gold armors first, then fight for the 4 interspatial rings. This was the obvious plan. Swish. Myriad Islands Lord's intentions were not apparent, but he had been fighting a gold-armored puppet near the Demon Soul Lord. When he noticed that few gold-armored puppets were left standing, he squinted and looked at the Demon Soul Lord. Demon Soul Lord, it's time now. The Demon Soul Lord stared at him. She understood Myriad Islands Lord's meaning and glanced at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's realm was powerful and was the sole reason that they were able to quickly defeat and kill the gold-armored puppets. However, when it came time for the two camps to fight for the 4 interspatial rings, Jian Wushuang would become a thorn in the side of the Pale Moon Marquis camp. To draw an analogy, Jian Wushuang would be like a fish bone stuck in a throat. If they couldn't get rid of this fish bone, the Pale Moon Marquis camp would be in torment. Without hesitating, the Demon Soul Lord dispatched the golden purple puppet she had been fighting. Inconspicuously, she flew towards Jian Wushuang. At that same time, the Myriad Islands Lord also seemed to lean towards Jian Wushuang intentionally. Jian Wushuang was outside the battlefield. He wasn't directly involved in the fighting and was focused on using his realm to suppress the puppet fighters. Besides, the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord were still in front of him. All of those gold-armored puppets are almost defeated, the Iron Saber Lord said with a smile. After all, puppet fighters are not fully sentient. They don't know how to work well with others. Obviously, they're not qualified to be the opponents of our human lords. Furthermore, we have the realm of our friend, Swordsman. Looking at Jian Wushuang, the Loftiness Lord said in admiration, Swordsman's realm is really the envy of us. It's my pleasure to have you two, the advanced lords, to be my guards, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. At this moment, what happened? Jian Wushuang's expression darkened. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord both noticed the danger as well. A ghostly figure had suddenly appeared beside Jian Wushuang. Immediately, Jian Wushuang was covered by a terrible killing intent. Demon Soul Lord. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord instantly recognized the Demon Soul Lord and also realized her purpose. You want to kill Swordsman? The Iron Saber Lord snorted. He waved his sleeve and unleashed an immaterial wave. The Loftiness Lord held a long purple spear in his hand, but this was just a first-grade magic weapon. It was not as useful as the Dao weapon he previously had. You two can't stop me, get out of here. With a cold voice, the Demon Soul Lord was filled with killing intent. A strange scarlet saber chopped violently towards them. It appeared like a curved shui yun in the sky. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord immediately tried to parry the blow. However, the Iron Saber Lord was only an advanced lord. Previously, he had been able to fight the Demon Soul Lord because he had the Dao weapon in his possession. Without it now, it was difficult for him to oppose her. It was impossible for them to stop the Demon Soul Lord, who was an expert at the level of Superior Lord. Clang. Clang. A collision was heard, followed by the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord being attacked and thrown sideways. The Demon Soul Lord paused for a moment, then rushed towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang made use of the Demon Soul Lord's pause to unleash the triple shift. His figure transformed into a residual shadow and retreated. As Jian Wushuang retreated, he stared coldly at the Demon Soul Lord. Abruptly, Jian Wushuang felt a chill. Instinctively, he turned his head and discovered that someone had appeared behind him. That person was the Myriad Islands Lord. The Myriad Islands Lord realized Jian Wushuang's purpose, and gave him a menacing grin. The Myriad Islands Lord stretched out his palms slowly and a flash of silver light flew towards Jian Wushuang. "What's that?" Jian Wushuang was shocked. He was soon able to see it clearly. The silver light was a bead. Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord also saw the silver bead and their expressions changed dramatically. Chapter 462 Fury. Chapter 462 Fury. Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt was a kind of thunderbolt. Its power was much greater than that of Purple Heaven Thunderbolt. Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt was also extraordinarily violent. Usually, a single flash could eviscerate a novice lord. Refining Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt into a bead to concentrate its power would result in even more massive destruction. Jian Wushuang had exploited demonic grenade once in the Nanyang continent. At that time, he had refined the Thunderbolt to a bead so that its power could explode instantly. However, demonic grenade's power paled in comparison to Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. "That's Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt." A few lords from both camps who were nearby also noticed it. When they realized that Myriad Islands Lord had thrown a Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead, they were terrified and were worried for Jian Wushuang. A Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead explosion next to an advanced lord would kill him easily. Even a superior lord would suffer terrible injuries unless his physical strength matched the Black Yuan lords. However, Jian Wushuang was only in the Saint Realm. It was almost impossible for him to survive the Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. "Boy, you are only in the Saint Realm. You should feel lucky to be killed by a Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead." The Myriad Islands Lord smiled coldly. It seemed that he was picturing Jian Wushuang's demise by the Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. Myriad Islands Lord's move was unexpected. The Drifting Blood Marquis camp were aware that the Pale Moon Marquis would seek a chance to attack Jian Wushuang. That was why the Black Yuan Lord, the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord worked together to protect him. However, no one had expected that the Pale Moon Marquis would be so cunning. They had let the Demon Soul Lord, a superior lord, distract him while the Myriad Islands Lord sneaked up on him. This ruse had worked well. The Demon Soul Lord had been held back by the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord for a short moment, but no one was able to stop Myriad Islands Lord's Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead. These events unfolded so quickly that Jian Wushuang wasn't able to respond immediately. When he realized the danger and wanted to escape, it was already too late. "Go to hell." The Myriad Islands Lord roared. The Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt emitted dazzling silver light and exploded. A tremendous power erupted in the palace. The explosion rocked the big cave mansion with a deafening and terrifying noise. The energy released was strong enough to easily outclass and kill an advanced lord. Being less than a meter away from the explosion, Jian Wushuang was exposed to more than 90% of its power. Boom! Visible residual waves from the explosion billowed from its epicenter and propagated through the palace, affecting most of the lords. Many had to close their eyes. After a long time the palace settled down. Things came to a close. The lords of both camps looked at the place where Jian Wushuang had been. Is he dead? Everyone was thinking the same thing. Swordsman, the Iron Saber Lord's face was clouded over. Look at this blood river, it is still here," a lord of the Drifting Blood Marquis camp suddenly said. Everyone immediately looked at the blood river which was still there. It continued to emit the aura which had not weakened. Instead it was still rolling. What's going on here? The blood river didn't disappear? Is Swordsman still alive? He didn't die, did he? Still alive. The lords of both camps were incredulous. Was he still alive? Was it possible? The Myriad Islands Lord squinted. The smoke from the explosion had cleared and a figure gradually appeared. He carried a long sword. The clothes on his upper body were split. His skin was darkened, which gave him a wild appearance. Meanwhile, the right side of his body drew attention. It looked slightly red and there were a few tiny wounds on it, but they were obviously superficial injuries. How is it possible? The Myriad Islands Lord was shocked. Impossible, the Demon Soul Lord couldn't help yelling. All the lords of both camps who witnessed this were astonished. He didn't die, did he? He wasn't even really injured. There were only a few insignificant wounds on the right side of his body. How was he able to do that? The power of Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt is intense. If I had been in Jian Wushuang's place, I wouldn't have been seriously hurt, it would definitely mess me up. It is impossible not to sustain any nasty injuries, but this little guy. The Black Yuan Lord looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise as a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. What if his body is stronger than mine? He was not aware that when Jian Wushuang was inside the Universal Thunderbolt Pool in Bay Mo Marquis Cave Mansion, he had already absorbed 37 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts. Now his body was on par with a superior second-grade magic weapon. Even among the lords, Jian Wushuang was already incredible. Although the Black Yuan Lord was ranked first among numerous lords of the two camps, his physical strength was just good enough to reach the requirement of a superior second-grade magic weapon. Compared to Jian Wushuang, he was inferior. In the palace, the lords of both camps were shocked speechless. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang's expression was glacial and he was filled with fury. In the icy depth of his eyes, rage burned. Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord. You two got a good trick. Jian Wushuang's voice filled the palace. Its cold tone was reminiscent of December's frost. The sneaky attack that the Demon Soul Lord and the Myriad Islands Lord had launched infuriated Jian Wushuang. The Myriad Islands Lord snorted in response. Actually, you are the good one. A ninth heaven thunderbolt bead exploded near you, but it still couldn't kill you. Little guy, you are so lucky. I'm sorry that I disappointed you too, Jian Wushuang said. I am still alive, but I'm afraid you guys will die soon. As he finished his words, he suddenly waved his hand. A scarlet figure immediately popped up beside him. The blood puppet had appeared. Jian Wushuang took out 10 blood gems and soon they were all swallowed by the blood puppet. 10 blood gems would allow the blood puppet to show its full power once. Sword Ancestor created the blood puppet. I really want to know the extent of its power. There was a severe expression in his eyes as Jian Wushuang pointed to the front. Blood puppet, kill the two of them. Chapter 463 Kill. Chapter 463, Kill. As Jian Wushuang dictated the order, the blood puppet transformed into a flash of blood-colored flowing light and flew away. He popped up in front of the Demon Soul Lord. A puppet fighter? The Demon Soul Lord noticed that the blood puppet had rushed to attack her. She frowned but was not really bothered. She had already encountered hundreds of puppet fighters in this cave mansion, including a large number of gold-armored puppets and 4 golden purple puppets. These puppet fighters had not really threatened her. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was only in the Saint Realm, so the puppet fighter that he owned wouldn't be that strong. Get the hell out of my way. The Demon Soul Lord chopped with her saber. Although it was a quick chop, it still caused a blood moon to emerge and provided tremendous power. In contrast, the blood puppet had only launched a punch that did not seem special. When the two strikes collided, the power from the blood puppet's punch erupted. What? Her expression changed dramatically. The Demon Soul Lord could sense the power from her opponent's fist, but she was unable to defend herself against it. Her scarlet saber curved slightly from the punch. The tremendous power was transmitted from her arm to the insides of her body. Puff. The Demon Soul Lord spat out a mouthful of blood. Her aura was weakened and she sank to the ground. There had only been one collision and the Demon Soul Lord, who was regarded as an excellent superior lord, had already received a serious injury. This is the Marquis battle strength. When the Demon Soul Lord was able to stand firmly, she looked up and howled violently. The howl echoed through the palace and made the lords of both camps stare. The Marquis battle strength? A puppet fighter in the Marquis level? Everyone looked at the blood puppet and nodded to themselves. One punch had seriously hurt the Demon Soul Lord. Obviously, the blood puppet must be at the level of Marquis battle strength. They wondered how someone in the Saint Realm could have a puppet fighter in the Marquis level. Even in the two camps, no one had ever owned a Marquis puppet. The battle strength of a Marquis puppet was equal to Marquis level. In both camps, only the Snow Marquis and the Marquis Tsangyue had such battle strength. They didn't know that this blood puppet was created by the Sword Ancestor and that it was also the strongest one that he had ever made. This puppet fighter is worthy of Sword Ancestor's name. Before, the blood puppet had consumed only 3 blood gems, so it couldn't really exploit its power. Still, it had easily outclassed a heaven-defying level expert. So, if it consumes 4 blood gems, its battle strength will be on par with the regular level of a lord. If it consumes 6 blood gems, it should be comparable to an advanced lord. By consuming 10 blood gems, the blood puppet will reach the peak of its battle strength. equivalent to that of a marquis. Moreover, it was the strongest puppet fighter made by the Sword Ancestor. It definitely wouldn't disappoint Jian Wushuang, would it? Demon Soul Lord, you must die today. Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of killing intent. The blood puppet turned into a flash of flowing light once again and rushed toward the Demon Soul Lord. At the same time, the blood river which had filled the palace flowed towards the Demon Soul Lord. The powerful pressure from the blood river limited her movement. Damn it. The Demon Soul Lord looked ferocious, but her expression betrayed doubt as she looked at the blood puppet. She knew that even at her optimum state she could only flee from the blood puppet. Now she had already suffered a serious injury and was also suffering the effects from Jian Wushuang's realm. She could barely defend herself now. Run, run. The Demon Soul Lord turned around and ran. Do you think you can escape? Jian Wushuang clenched his fist and successively launched several punches through the air. As he did so, the vast spiritual power that had gathered in his body exploded as well. Azura's secret skill, 18 levels of hell. His voice echoed coldly through the palace. Abruptly, the environment changed. A huge scarlet pavilion slowly emerged. In it, a few ghostly shadows could be seen faintly, and they were howling. When the scarlet pavilion had completely emerged, an immaterial power instantly spread out. The Demon Soul Lord, who stood below the scarlet pavilion, felt the effects of its power immediately. She had been making her escape, but she suddenly paused in the void. It was only a short pause, as short as the blink of an eye. That was the extent of Jian Wushuang's power. After all, the Demon Soul Lord was a superior lord. Jian Wushuang's realm was still lower than hers. Even if Jian Wushuang exploited the 18 levels of hell to its fullest extent, it only could stop the consciousness of the Demon Soul Lord for a short moment. Even so, Jian Wushuang had already consumed 70% of his spiritual power. It was only the blink of an eye that was too short even for the lords of the two camps to do anything. However, it was different from the blood puppet. By consuming 10 blood gems, its battle strength was already on par with an ordinary marquis. At marquis level, its speed picked up as well. In just a short moment, the blood puppet had already caught up with the Demon Soul Lord. The Demon Soul Lord recovered her senses in a couple of minutes, but the blood puppet had already arrived and punched at her head. Damn it. The Demon Soul Lord panicked, and she hurriedly waved the scarlet saber to parry the punch. Unfortunately, the serious injury she had already sustained was aggravated. Her scarlet saber was thrown off and she spat mouthfuls of blood. She involuntarily retreated. Before she was able to stand firmly, a huge scarlet palm suddenly appeared behind her. The scarlet palm had been formed by Jian Wushuang, who was driving the road to the underworld. The scarlet palm punched her, stopping her retreat and pushing her back toward the blood puppet. No! The Demon Soul Lord howled desperately. She saw the blood puppet clench a fist and punch toward her head. This time she didn't have any chance to escape. Puh! The Demon Soul Lord's skull was crushed by the punch. Witnessing this, the lords from both camps were dumbfounded. Even the Black Yuan Lord was frightened. The Demon Soul Lord, the superior lord in the Six Cloud realm, was very powerful. Even the Black Yuan Lord, who was better than the Demon Soul Lord, didn't have enough confidence to kill her. But now the Demon Soul Lord was dead. Chapter 464 Myriad Islands Lord's Trump Card. Chapter 464 Myriad Islands Lord's Trump Card. The Demon Soul Lord was dead. She had attempted to murder someone in the Saint Realm. Unfortunately, she was killed by her opponent and his puppet fighter instead. Jian Wushuang, who killed the Demon Soul Lord, looked very calm. It seemed as though it had been easy for him to kill the Demon Soul Lord. Soon, he turned his icy glare at the Myriad Islands Lord. Killing intent suffused him again. The Demon Soul Lord and the Myriad Islands Lord had worked together to catch him unaware. The Demon Soul Lord had tried to distract him while the Myriad Islands Lord sneaked up behind him. Compared to the Demon Soul Lord, Jian Wushuang felt more murderous intent toward the Myriad Islands Lord. Myriad Islands Lord, the Demon Soul Lord has already died. Now it's your turn. Jian Wushuang's deep and low voice reverberated coldly through the palace. The Myriad Islands Lord's expression froze, but he did not panic, nor was he terrified. Kill me? Only you and this puppet fighter? The Myriad Islands Lord looked disdainful. He turned his palm and soon an object showed up on it. That was a scroll. The Myriad Islands Lord opened it. At the same time he launched several punches on it to make a few special marks. Soon the scroll was filled with tremendous power. Whoosh! The activation of the scroll caused an energy shield to coalesce around the Myriad Islands Lord. Formation. Jian Wushuang looked at the energy shield and narrowed his eyes. Little boy, you shouldn't underestimate me. My formation is the best in both camps, so it's not as simple as what you see now. It's a pity that I rushed here and didn't have enough time to prepare, otherwise, the Myriad Islands Lord sneered. Jian Wushuang was quiet. He didn't issue any commands, but the blood puppet flew to the Myriad Islands Lord without any hesitation. Boom. The blood puppet had landed a violent punch on the energy shield, with a power strong enough to kill an advanced lord. Its punch landed on the energy shield surrounding the Myriad Islands Lord and dented it. The shield trembled as it erupted with a great deal of power that caused a strong roar. The energy shield was intact. It had not been smashed, and the Myriad Islands Lord who was inside the shield was not hurt. Oh? Jian Wushuang squinted. The lords of both camps were amazed. What a powerful defensive formation, even the marquee puppet couldn't break it. No wonder the Myriad Islands Lord's formation is the best in both camps. This defensive formation could save the Myriad Islands Lord. As long as the Myriad Islands Lord has this formation, it is impossible for the swordsman to kill him. Jian Wushuang and his marquee puppet had easily killed the Demon Soul Lord who was a superior lord. That had stunned them. Even though the Myriad Islands Lord was not as strong as the Demon Soul Lord, he was regarded as the first master of formation in both camps. It would be more difficult to defeat him. The formation looks good. Jian Wushuang looked at the energy shield around the Myriad Islands Lord. He could tell that the energy shield was very unique and it could balance the energy by itself. After the attack from the blood puppet, the energy shield had consumed a bit of energy but had soon recovered. If I want to break the energy shield, I have to directly smash it with violent force. The power should only focus on one spot. However, the only person in both camps who is able to do that is the Marquis Lord, Jian Wushuang thought. A real Marquis, an expert above Seven Cloud Realm, had terrifying power and was also an expert of human being. He would be able to exploit the manual and the unique skill. By exploiting the unique skill, consolidating all power into a single point and unleashing that power instantly, one would be able to smash the energy shield. However, even though the blood puppet was a marquee-level puppet fighter and had marquee battle strength, it was still only a puppet fighter. He didn't know how to exploit the unique skill, wasn't able to focus all the power to one spot. He also couldn't control the timing of the explosion, so he wouldn't be able to break the energy shield. Swordsman, the Myriad Islands Lord raised his voice. You are only in the Saint Realm, but you have terrifying realm and excellent strength. You are already the best of the intermediate lords. Moreover, your body is also very powerful. The ninth heaven thunderbolt exploded near you, but you didn't really get hurt. Now you show us a marquee-level puppet fighter. We lords really envy your ability and skills. Upon hearing this, the lords of both camps looked surprised. Jian Wushuang's realm, his super-powerful body, and the marquee-level puppet fighter made them jealous. But Jian Wushuang was only in the Saint Realm. However, we only envy you. After all, you are not a real marquee expert. You want to kill me, but you won't be able to, the Myriad Islands Lord said with a big laugh. Really? Jian Wushuang looked up and stared at the Myriad Islands Lord coldly. I don't think so. Jian Wushuang took something out of the interspatial ring. It was a gold longbow with a sharp golden arrow. The gold longbow radiated a fierce aura. A bow? Noticing the longbow, the lords were slightly shocked. Jian Wushuang grinned and then threw the gold longbow to the blood puppet. The Dragon King bow. It was one of the opportunities that Jian Wushuang had received in the Marquis Beima Cave Mansion. He had kept it with him but had never used it. The Dragon King bow was also a first-grade magic weapon and it contained great power. More importantly, the bow was able to focus all the power to one spot and to unleash that power in an instant. Myriad Islands Lord, you sure are confident about the strength of the energy shield. I'd really like to see if my blood puppet can break your tortoise shell with this Dragon King bow. While Jian Wushuang was speaking, the blood puppet was slowly pulling the bowstring of the Dragon King bow. While the blood puppet was only a puppet fighter and he didn't know any unique skills, he was able to follow Jian Wushuang's order to shoot an arrow. As the bowstring was stretched, a terrifying power gathered at one point. The bowstring emitted a few flashes of dazzling golden light. The Myriad Islands Lord who was being targeted by the Dragon King arrow felt its tremendous power. His eyes narrowed. Chapter 465 Dragon King Arrow Shoot to Kill. Chapter 465 Dragon King Arrow Shoot to Kill. This bow is a first-grade magic weapon? Myriad Islands Lord's expression changed slightly. The powerful energy shield around him was his largest trump card. Under normal circumstances, even a marquis could not crack it unless he used his strongest skill. Myriad Islands Lord had thought that he could not be defeated by Jian Wushuang, who only owned a puppet fighter of marquis level. A marquis puppet would not know how to use its strongest skill, so it was impossible for it to break the energy shield. But it would be different if the marquis puppet fighter was equipped with a first-grade magic weapon. The bow concentrated its strength at its point. As the blood puppet drew the bowstring and the terrible power accumulated, Myriad Islands Lord felt its threat. Inside the palace, lords of the two camps observed the Dragon King bow closely. At the moment, the blood puppet had already drawn the bowstring to about 80% of its full extent. Soon it stretched to 90%. That was the limit of the blood puppet. The power that had condensed on the Dragon King arrow was astounding. 90%? Jian Wushuang nodded with satisfaction. The drawing resistance of the Dragon King bow was extremely high. When Jian Wushuang had just obtained the bow, he had drawn it to 10% with his best efforts. Later, he had found Marquis Baima's opportunity which had increased his strength, particularly in the physical aspects. This had enabled him to draw it to a limit of 50%. It was extremely difficult for the blood puppet to draw the bow to 90%. Probably only actual marquises could hold it at full draw. With the accumulated power reaching its peak, the blood puppet suddenly loosened its tight palm. Xiao. A golden flowing light crossed the sky with a long tail like a comet. Fast. It was too fast. It was so swift that everyone present forgot to dodge. Myriad Islands Lord knew that he could not escape from the arrow. He stood still and stared attentively at the Dragon King arrow. Although he had full confidence in the energy shield around him, he felt fearful as the arrow flew toward him. Erring on the side of caution, he operated his spiritual power to build another spiritual power shield around his body. The golden comet dragged its long tail and hit the energy shield around Myriad Islands Lord. The terrible power that had condensed to an extreme density suddenly broke out and swept through the energy shield in a frenzy. Simultaneously, the energy shield tried to resist its advances and released vast amounts of power. Chi. Subtle sounds from the pressure of energies colliding reverberated through the palace. The lords had already fallen silent. Even Black Yuan Lord and others who had been fighting the golden puppet fighters and golden purple puppets stopped to look at them. At the point of impact, the energy shield had been completely dented. At the center of the dent, a sharp light pounded heavily and drilled a tiny hole in the energy shield. The lords narrowed their eyes in surprise. Myriad Islands Lord took a deep breath and roared angrily. There was another spiritual power shield formed by his own spiritual power around him. It helped to hold off the golden comet, but was eventually pierced by it. The golden comet encountered great resistance as it pushed toward Myriad Islands Lord. After drilling through the two shields, the power of Golden Comet was exhausted. When it arrived at Myriad Islands Lord's chest, its point merely pierced his skin and then stopped. Myriad Islands Lord breathed heavily and his whole back was soaked in sweat. He had been really scared when the Dragon King arrow had pierced his shields. Fortunately, the power of the Dragon King arrow had been depleted just as it was going to penetrate his body. Myriad Islands Lord felt that he was at the extreme edge of survival. Then he laughed wildly. Haha, swordsman, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. The broken energy shield began to repair itself at a surprising speed. In a blink of an eye, it was completed repaired, and the Dragon King arrow was pushed out by the energy shield. This energy shield had become intact again. Seeing this, the surrounding lords all sighed. What a pity. It was so close. He nearly killed Myriad Islands Lord. Only Myriad Islands Lord can survive that arrow. If it were us, we would be dead. Even Black Yuan Lord with his strong body can't resist that arrow. The Lord sighed and felt pity for Jian Wushuang. Swordsman, I said before, you can't kill me. No matter what aces you have, you can't kill me, ha! Myriad Islands Lord was still laughing hysterically. Jian Wushuang was calm as he looked at Myriad Islands Lord with a hint of pity in his eyes. Myriad Islands Lord, Jian Wushuang finally said. Myriad Islands Lord stopped laughing and looked at Jian Wushuang with a trace of arrogance. Jian Wushuang shook his head and sneered, "It's too early for you to feel lucky." Well? Myriad Islands Lord was puzzled at first, but he suddenly looked down at his chest hurriedly. The arrow had not really hurt him, but it had touched his body and pierced his skin. He looked down to inspect the wound. He was terrified by what he saw. This is... Myriad Islands Lord stared at his chest. A patch of white had appeared. The white patch was spreading at an alarming speed and nearly covered his entire chest. Meanwhile, he felt a creepy chill spreading through his body and freezing his consciousness. The patch of white continued to spread and finally covered his entire body. Click click. As the chill condensed, Myriad Islands Lord turned into ice. The wind blew. The ice sculpture shattered. Chapter 466, An Unexpected Accident. Chapter 466, An Unexpected Accident. Myriad Islands Lord died. He died with his eyes wide open and a terrified expression on his face. The lords of the two camps were silent and they looked ambivalent. They had witnessed the events unfold. They were shocked to their core. A living man had become an ice sculpture in a moment and had shattered into pieces. It made their hair stand on end. They knew that Myriad Islands Lord had been poisoned. When Dragon King Arrow pierced his skin, the poison on it had entered his body. But it was too ghastly. Myriad Islands Lord, an advanced lord, had not been able to resist it and had died a swift and strange death. Even Jian Wushuang, who had used the poisoned arrow, sighed when he saw Myriad Islands Lord's death. "The icy heart poison is much more frightening than I thought." Jian Wushuang looked at the Dragon King arrow in his hand. There was a hint of white on the point of Dragon King arrow, which was the icy heart poison he had deliberately used. Icy heart poison was the most frightening venom that Jian Wushuang had encountered. When he had helped Lung Wushuang refine the icy heart poison in her body, he had obtained 12 drops of venom. He had applied 1 drop to the Dragon King arrow as a secret weapon. The result was satisfying. While Jian Wushuang was killing Myriad Islands Lord with the Dragon King bow and icy heart poison, nobody knew that there was a magnificent hall at the bottom of the cave mansion. Inside it, a skinny elder suddenly raised his head. "Young Master's aura. Why does he have it?" The skinny elder narrowed his eyes slightly as if he could see everything in the palace. Then he slowly stretched out his shriveled hand. The void beside the skinny elder tore unexpectedly like a piece of paper, revealing a huge wormhole. The skinny elder's palm stretched out of the wormhole. In the palace. After killing Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord, Jian Wushuang ordered the blood puppet to quickly pick up their interspatial rings. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the blood puppet back and then looked around. He found that the lords of the two camps were staring at him with complex expressions on their faces. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and began to say something, but suddenly, an unexpected accident happened. An immaterial wave came from the void and immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. They were stunned by what they saw. The void collapsed without a sign and revealed a huge wormhole. From it, a shriveled hand stretched out and slowly grew larger. Soon, it became so immense that it covered the sky. Space and time froze. The lords were terrified. Simultaneously, they discovered with horror that they had lost their ability to act. Jian Wushuang also could not move at this moment. The hand seized Jian Wushuang as easily as if he were a toy. It then retreated back into the wormhole, which shrunk and disappeared. Calm was restored to the palace. However, the emotions of the lords present were turbulent. When they recovered, they realized that Jian Wushuang had disappeared with the huge hand. In the magnificent hall at the bottom of the cave mansion, the skinny elder slowly stretched his hand and pulled Jian Wushuang into the hall. Then he loosened his grip and threw him on the ground. Jian Wushuang struggled to stand up, still feeling dizzy. He had been in the palace, but he had been unexpectedly grasped by a giant hand and brought to this hall. The hand had suddenly appeared from the void, and seized him with such ease. He had been unable to struggle and resist. Even a marquis would have been unable to that. With mounting horror, Jian Wushuang looked around. He discovered that the palace was nearly identical to the one in which they battled for the interspatial rings. This included similarities in construction structure, size, and even the decorations. The only difference was that at the top of the hall, 2 men sat there instead of puppet fighters. They were both old men. One old man had white hair, a white beard and an ethereal appearance. The white robe he wore was covered with dust. The other was thin. The thunderbolt mark between his eyebrows stood out. Jian Wushuang frowned and looked at the two reclining figures. He could not feel their vitality. It was as though they had been dead for many years. Nevertheless, the thin elder suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Jian Wushuang. His eyes were cold and held ghostly flames. What? Jian Wushuang was greatly taken aback. He still could not feel any vitality from the thin elder. He should be dead, but now. It was him who seized me. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and immediately understood the situation. He bowed to the old man and said, "Respected elder, I am Jian Wushuang." The thin elder's strength was unfathomable. He was definitely an incredible super being. In front of him, Jian Wushuang did not dare to use the pseudonym of Swordsman. Jian Wushuang. The skinny elder stared at Jian Wushuang with his cold and strange eyes, but his voice was cordial. "I'm Jing." Hearing the name, Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. Jing? Great demon Jing. Chapter 467, War God Jing under the command of Emperor Xiao. Chapter 467, War God Jing under the command of Emperor Xiao. All experts who had adventured in the flaming battlefield had heard of great demon Jing. After all, the flaming battlefield originated from him. 1,000 years ago, he had been attacked by 8 marquises and 322 lords on the flaming battlefield. Both sides had perished. The battle was a legend in divine land. Now this skinny elder claimed that he was great demon Jing? He caught me easily no matter how I struggled. His strength must be beyond that of marquises. A supreme expert like him who appeared on the flaming battlefield. Yes, he must be Jing, Jian Wushuang thought quickly. He recalled the legendary battle on the flaming battlefield 1,000 years ago. Jing had been assumed dead because he had disappeared, while the 8 marquises and 322 lords had died. However, no one had witnessed great demon Jing's death and his body had never been found. It was absolutely credible that Jing was still alive. Reflecting on the skinny elder's astonishing strength, Jian Wushuang was 90% sure that he was Jing. Knowing his identity, Jian Wushuang became uneasy. Jing had been recognized as the great demon 1,000 years ago because of the frantic slaughter he had wrought. That was why so many experts had launched a collaborative attack on him. As he stood before the great demon, Jian Wushuang was worried that Jing might kill him just because he disliked his appearance. Or he might kill him just because he felt like it. If Jing wanted to kill him, Jian Wushuang would definitely be unable to resist. Jian Wushuang was on high alert. As though he had read Jian Wushuang's mind, Jing rolled his cold, strange eyes and snorted. "Rest assured. I'm not going to kill you for the moment." "For the moment?" Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. "Boy, let me ask you something. You must answer honestly. If I'm satisfied with your answer, I may spare your life," Jing said coldly. "Please ask," Jian Wushuang calmly replied. He knew that Jing had seized him from among the experts in the cave mansion for a specific reason. "Boy, where did you get the icy heart poison venom?" Jing stared at Jian Wushuang. "Icy heart poison venom?" Jian Wushuang now understood that Jing's reasons for seizing him. With this in mind, he replied truthfully, "I obtained it by refining part of icy heart poison in someone's body." "Refine?" Jing was a little stunned. "You know how to refine icy heart poison?" "For some special reason I can refine it, but only a very limited part," Jian Wushuang said. Jing continued to ask, "What's your relationship with the person with icy heart poison?" "Well," Jian Wushuang hesitated before answering, "we're sort of friends. She had once helped me and I helped her to detoxify the poison too." "I see," Jing nodded and murmured, "No wonder I can feel a young master's aura on you. I guess my young master has given you a pledge?" "A pledge?" Jian Wushuang immediately recalled the jade slip which Lung Wushuang had given him. Lung Wushuang mentioned that he could break the jade slip when he was in danger. "Young master." Jian Wushuang looked at Jing with a strange expression on his face and asked, "She's your young master?" "Yes," Jing nodded. A faint smile appeared on his thin and sunken face. Jing continued, "Boy, stand closer." Jian Wushuang frowned and hesitated. "Boy, don't be afraid. Since my young master gave you her pledge, she must have a close relationship with you. Naturally, I won't kill you. In any case, if I did want to kill you, I'd be able to do it even if you're 1,000 miles away, Jing said with a smile. Recalling how Jing had seized him, Wushuang forced a smile. Indeed, with Jing's incredible skills, he could kill him no matter where Wushuang hid. Wushuang shook off his hesitation and walked to stand in front of Jing. I haven't talked to anyone for over 1,000 years, Jing sighed. Over 1,000 years? Wushuang was surprised. Have you stayed in this cave mansion for so long? That's right. Jing nodded and said with a sigh, I have been meditating on Slaughter Dao. 1,000 years ago something was wrong when I comprehended it. That was why I killed so many innocent people. Without any other options, I had to cultivate it in this cave mansion. I've been here for 1,000 years. Is that so? Wushuang was shocked. Everyone on the flaming battlefield said that Jing was a great demon who had been addicted to slaughter. 1,000 years ago he had massacred innumerable innocent people. Other experts had been enraged and had decided to band together to fight against him. No one knew the reason for Jing's crazy slaughter. It's rumored that you died together with those experts who attacked you, Wushuang laughed. Died together with them? Those bugs? Jing sneered. Though I was affected by Heart Demon and could only use 1% of my strength, a group of bugs of Cloud Realm couldn't possibly harm me. Jing obviously did not think highly of Cloud Realm experts. Hearing that, Wushuang was incredulous. Jing is definitely a super expert beyond the Cloud Realm. Probably he's even stronger than the 10 sovereigns in Divine Land. I wonder whether he's stronger than the 3 ancestors, Wushuang thought in horror. Since Jing was so powerful, how about Lung Wushuang, the young master of Jing? Wushuang knew that Lung Wushuang's father was Jing's master. What incredible strength would Jing's master possess? Elder, may I ask who you and your young master are? Wushuang could not help asking. You want to know? Jing glanced at him and smiled faintly. Listen. I am the 7th war god under the command of Emperor Xiao of Tang of the East. Chapter 468 Puppet Master. Chapter 468, Puppet Master. The 7th war god under the command of Emperor Xiao of Tang of the East. Wushuang was astonished. He had heard of Tang of the East. It was a bloodthirsty kingdom on the Nanyang continent, where Wushuang had adventured for some time. But he had never heard of Emperor Xiao of Tang of the East or the war gods. Why, don't you understand? Jing looked at him with great interest. Respected elder, I know the Tang of the East. I've only heard that there is a mysterious monarch, but I've never heard of Emperor Xiao or the war gods. Wushuang frowned and said. The Tang of the East that you know is completely different from the one I mentioned, Jing laughed. The one you know was created by my master. As for the real one, you've never seen it. If you have an opportunity in the future, you'll know the prosperous Tang. Wushuang was stunned speechless. The Tang of the East on the Nanyang continent was a slaughterous dynasty and country of death. But the Tang of the East mentioned by Jing was a prosperous world. Well, it's useless to explain to you, boy, Jing said with a wave of his hand. Wushuang stopped speaking as his attention turned to the other figure in the hall. Elder, who is he? Wushuang looked at the old man with white hair and beard, who had obviously been dead for many years. He was the owner of this cave mansion, Jing said. Owner of the cave mansion? Wushuang was surprised. I thought it was constructed by you. Of course not. Jing said, curling his lips. I'm going to die. Why would I construct a cave mansion? He is puppet master. He seemed to have been famous in Divine Land. In the information he left, he claimed to be the first puppet maker in Divine Land. First puppet maker in Divine Land? Wushuang was intrigued. This was extraordinary. Unfortunately, no matter how strong his puppets had been, his own life was limited. When I fought those Cloud Realm experts in the Flaming Mountains, I discovered the cave mansion, so I chose this place to cultivate in seclusion, said Jing. This hall is the real core of the cave mansion, where he left 4 opportunities for future experts. It shouldn't have been discovered yet. You're lucky that I brought you here. 4 opportunities? Wushuang's eyes lit up immediately. Boy, it's too early for you to get excited. The 4 opportunities are accompanied by tests. 3 tests are about making puppets while you... I guess you're not good at it? Jing looked at him. As a powerful expert who had stayed in the cave mansion for over 1,000 years, Jing knew everything in the cave mansion. Jian Wushuang smiled reluctantly. Making puppets. Not good at it? He knew nothing about it. That's just it. Although there are 4 opportunities, you can get 1 at most. Even then, I wonder if you're up to it, Jing sneered. Boy, come with me. At least there's still an opportunity. Half a loaf is better than no bread, said Jian Wushuang as he shrugged. He followed Jing into a secret chamber next to the hall. The test is in the secret chamber, Jing said as he looked at Jian Wushuang. If you can pass this test, you'll get a good reward. Value the opportunity. Jian Wushuang forced a smile and stepped inside without a second thought. He saw a vacant ground with a towering figure in the center. A puppet fighter? Jian Wushuang was not surprised to see it. Puppet Master had claimed to be the first puppet maker in Divine Land and had constructed this cave mansion, filling it with puppet fighters. It was unsurprising that he would use a puppet fighter in his test. The puppet fighter immediately opened his eyes and looked at Jian Wushuang. The Saint Realm? The puppet fighter asked with a hint of surprise. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and said, a puppet fighter with intelligence? There were 2 types of puppet fighters, intelligent ones and non-intelligent ones. They were very different. Puppet fighters with intelligence were as smart as human beings, but they were usually not very strong. Puppet fighters without intelligence were much stronger. For example, Jian Wushuang's blood puppet and other puppet fighters he had met in the inner and outer layer of the cave mansion belonged to this type. Jian Wushuang had once met puppet fighters with intelligence, such as Jin Ling and Mu Shan in the Ancestors' Land. Human warrior, you're just a Saint Realm expert, so I'll restrain my battle strength to the Saint Realm level. As long as you defeat me, you can get the opportunity my master left in this secret chamber, the blonde puppet fighter in blue robes said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Are you ready? The blonde puppet stared at Jian Wushuang. As soon as he finished his words, he paused a second and then rushed forward. The blonde puppet bounced forward like a bomb. Simultaneously, a giant axe appeared in his hand. He swung it violently at Jian Wushuang as he made his approach. The giant axe cut the air with immense power and left a bright edge in the void. Nice axe skill, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He knew that puppet fighters with intelligence could use manual skills, unlike puppets that could only use physical strength. Jian Wushuang started to counterattack. He swept his sword up and blocked the axe shadow heading toward him. Clang. After the fierce collision, the blonde puppet continued to swing the giant axe in a flurry of attacks that oppressed Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang lifted his sword to resist as he thought in surprise, this puppet fighter's power is indeed of the Saint Realm level. However, his axe skill is extremely delicate. He's barely comparable to a novice lord. It was the test of Puppet Master. It would be impossible for a Saint Realm expert to defeat a puppet fighter of novice lord level. However, it was not difficult for Jian Wushuang, as he could easily fight against 2 intermediate lords at the same time. Jian Wushuang quickly started to attack. Chapter 469 6-Story Pagoda. Chapter 469, 6-Story Pagoda. Swoosh. Bright sword light flashed like lightning and penetrated the void. The sword movement Jian Wushuang used was desperation. He used his force to violently break the blonde puppet's axe movements and knock him backwards. The blonde puppet regained his footing. There was a white mark on his body left by Jian Wushuang's sword. If he had been an ordinary lord, he would have been dead. You won. He looked at Jian Wushuang and threw a black flowing light to him. He said, this is your reward for passing the test. Jian Wushuang caught it. As he inspected it, a strange expression flashed on his face. The black flowing light turned out to be a mini black pagoda with 6 stories, each of the same height. A pagoda? Jian Wushuang left the secret chamber. Doubts churned in his mind as he returned to the palace to meet Jing. Not bad, boy, Jing smiled faintly. Respected elder, is this pagoda the good thing you mentioned? Jian Wushuang asked skeptically. Boy, don't be too greedy, Jing said as he looked at him. It's called 6-Story Pagoda. It's definitely a good thing in Divine Land and it's useful to you. 6-Story Pagoda? Jian Wushuang whispered. Try to bind to it, Jing said. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang used his blood to bind to it. He met no resistance from the Black Pagoda at all and finished the process quickly. Well? Jian Wushuang realized the difference after binding to it. He could clearly sense a restriction on the first story of the pagoda. It was very complex and enigmatic. At first glance, Jian Wushuang could feel it but not understand it. What a mysterious restriction, Jian Wushuang sighed. Jing said, boy, there is a restriction on each story of the pagoda. They were all slaughter restrictions. You've meditated on the slaughter origin, right? Jing looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. He mainly meditated on two types of origin, world origin and slaughter origin. In the past, his comprehension of slaughter origin had been higher than that of world origin. After adventuring in Marquis Beima Cave Mansion, his comprehension of world origin had vastly improved. He had formed 4 world origin marks and only 1 slaughter origin mark. That's it. Jing responded with a smile and said, the 6 restrictions are extremely profound and each contains 999 slaughter occults. Since you've meditated on slaughter origin, you can also meditate on these slaughter occults. The reference of the slaughter occults will greatly improve your speed in comprehending it. When you comprehend all 999 slaughter occults, you can unriddle the first restriction. Then it'd mean that you've really entered the slaughter Dao. Jian Wushuang was stunned, but exhilaration soon took over. He turned to sense the first restriction in the pagoda and felt the existence of many slaughter occults. Most of them were new to Jian Wushuang. No wonder you said that the 6-story pagoda is useful to me. It's such a great opportunity for me, Jian Wushuang said in gratitude. The first restriction was obviously a shortcut to the slaughter Dao. Dao. Beyond the origin was Dao. When comprehension of the origin reached the peak, the origin would naturally transfer into Dao. For example, slaughter origin would transfer into slaughter Dao when his comprehension reached an extremely high level. Dao was much more powerful than origin. That was why many experts and marquises would fight tooth and nail for the Dao weapon. Dao weapon was involved with Dao. However, Dao was too enigmatic. Even though the marquis experts were strong, they were not qualified to have access to Dao. In Divine Land, only 10 sovereigns and 3 ancestors had entered the level of Dao. How extraordinary the 6-story pagoda was, that its first restriction alone could enable Jian Wushuang to enter the slaughter Dao. Boy, you've won this advantage. Now I'll send you away, Jing said. Thank you, respected elder, said Jian Wushuang. At the same time he bowed to the puppet master. Jing raised his eyebrows. He waved his hand and a huge wormhole immediately appeared in the void in the hall. Jing's ease at creating such a huge wormhole shocked Jian Wushuang. The latter revised his estimation of Jing's strength. Go in, Jing said. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang stepped into the wormhole and soon disappeared. After he had left, someone walked slowly out of the secret chamber. It was the blonde puppet who had fought with Jian Wushuang. He came to Jing in the hall and asked, Sir, may I ask why you said your 6-story pagoda was my master's 4th test? The blonde puppet was confused. Puppet Master, the owner of the cave mansion, had only set 3 tests, which were about making puppets. The opportunities after passing the tests were also about making puppets. The 4th test had actually been set by Jing just now. His purpose was obvious, that was, to give the 6-story pagoda to Jian Wushuang. Jing remained silent while he thought to himself. Young master is indifferent and doesn't trust others easily. Even I'm not qualified to get her pledge, but she gave him one. What's more, he can refine young master's icy heart poison. It's so incredible. He's of great use to young master, but he is too weak now. Jing had given the 6-story pagoda to Jian Wushuang to help him improve his strength as quickly as possible. He had concealed the truth about the 6-story pagoda's ownership because of his identity. It would be better to keep Jian Wushuang in the dark. Chapter 470 Disaster. Chapter 470 Disaster. Numerous lords from both sides had gathered in the palace. Now they fled in terror. Run, run. A forlorn voice reverberated through the palace. The lords escaped in a panic in all directions. A red-haired middle-aged man who radiated a mighty aura was in the midst of a frenzied slaughter. He was the puppet fighter who had sat on a throne at the front of the palace. He had kept to the sidelines until the gold-armored puppets and 4 golden-purple puppets had lost the ground. Now he erupted into action with overwhelming strength and killed many lords from the 2 camps. Even superior lords such as Black Yuan Lord were frightened of him. The red-haired middle-aged man was a terrifying marquis puppet. Let's go. Hurry up. Black Yuan Lord growled with a cold look. Behind him, many lords from Marquis Piaoxue camp were escaping swiftly. Thoughts of the Marquis puppet's interspatial ring were banished from their minds. At this moment, an immaterial wave suddenly appeared in the surrounding area. A huge wormhole materialized and a figure slowly stepped out of it. Swordsman? Black Yuan Lord recognized him. Black Yuan Lord, what happened? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Jian Wushuang took in the situation. A red-haired middle-aged man stood in front of an advanced lord from the hostile camp. He casually slapped the lord and the latter's head shattered. Oh! Jian Wushuang was terrified. How terrifying the puppet fighter is. He is much stronger than my blood puppet. With 10 blood gems, blood puppet could unleash its full strength, which was comparable to the battle strength of Marquis level. However, as a Marquis puppet, blood puppet was weaker than the red-haired middle-aged man. Blood puppet's power could not hold a candle to the puppet fighter. Puppet master placed such a powerful puppet fighter in this palace? Jian Wushuang sighed to himself. Swordsman, run. Be quick. Iron Saber Lord shouted. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He ran out of the palace with Black Yuan Lord and his other comrades. They continued to move toward the outer layer. Eventually they arrived at the outer layer. They were able to take a brief respite and calm themselves. The puppet fighter is terrifying. He's so powerful that even a Marquis can't fight him. Iron Saber Lord sighed. What happened to this puppet fighter? When we were fighting the 4 golden purple puppets he did not move. But when we defeated them he began to attack us, Loftiness Lord said with a frown. Who knows? I guess the master of the cave mansion planned this. Silver Wing Lord curled his lips. Shut up. Black Yuan Lord shouted frostily as he looked at the other lords. Originally, Marquis Piaoxue camp had more than 50 lords in the palace. When the puppet fighter attacked, those lords had scattered and only a dozen lords had escaped. No one knew what had happened to the other lords. Jian Wushuang and his other comrades waited in the outer layer for half a day. Other lords trickled out of the inner layer in succession. More than 30 lords from their camp had survived. I've asked Spirit Lord to tell these lords to leave immediately. Half a day is long enough to escape, so those who haven't emerged must have died in there, Black Yuan Lord said, eyes narrowed. The other lords were filled with grief. It was a disaster for both camps to be attacked by the puppet fighter. Numerous lords had died in his hands. What a tragedy. Iron Saber Lord sighed as he shook his head. Lords were rare and now they had lost dozens. Our camp has suffered a great loss, but Marquis Tsangyue camp did not fare better. Black Yuan Lord looked toward the lords from Marquis Tsangyue camp, who had gathered next to them. Less than 30 lords from Marquis Tsangyue camp had gathered in the outer layer. It was clear that they had suffered heavy losses. Compared to their camp, we were lucky. After all, we gained much in the inner layer. We received a Dao weapon and grabbed 4 interspatial rings from the golden purple puppets. Each ring must hold numerous treasures. Black Yuan Lord smiled. Of course, it's all thanks to you, Swordsman. If you had not killed Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord, we would not have obtained the 4 interspatial rings. Black Yuan Lord looked at Jian Wushuang. Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord had led the lords from Marquis Tsangyue camp in battle, but they had been killed by Jian Wushuang. Without leaders, those lords had been ineffective in their fight against Marquis Piaoxue camp. Right, Swordsman, you were taken away by someone but then you returned suddenly. What on earth happened? Black Yuan Lord asked. The other lords from Marquis Piaoxue camp looked at Jian Wushuang in curiosity. They wondered where he had gone and what he had encountered after he had been unceremoniously grabbed by the giant hand. Jian Wushuang was prepared for this question. He raised his eyebrows and answered, I don't know what happened. I just know that an expert grabbed me and asked me for a drop of venom that I used to kill Myriad Islands Lord. Then he let me go. Chapter 471, The New Lord Arrives. Chapter 471, The New Lord Arrives. Jian Wushuang would not tell them that he met Jing at the bottom of the cave mansion. If the news was spread that great demon Jing was still alive, it would cause a sensation in the entire flaming battlefield or even the entire divine land. That's it. Black Yuan Lord frowned. Although he doubted it a little, he did not ask anything further. Then they left the cave mansion. Since the powerful Marquis puppet had prevented them from searching for treasures, they had to leave. The exploration of the cave mansion had to stop for now. As for the other secrets in the cave mansion, they would have to wait for the two camps marquises to explore personally. In the huge campsite outside of the cave mansion, the lords from the Marquis Piaoxue camp did not rush to leave. Even though their camp had lost many lords in this action, they had still gained a lot, a Dao weapon and 4 interspatial rings. The surviving lords could receive corresponding battle achievements according to their contributions. With the help of Jian Wushuang's realm technique, Loftiness Lord had been able to resist until Black Yuan Lord came and then gave the Dao weapon to him. In the fight for the 4 interspatial rings, as Jian Wushuang killed Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord, the Marquis Piaoxue camp had been able to obtain the 4 rings. Jian Wushuang had contributed the most, so he would receive amazing battle achievements. 120,000 battle achievements. A flicker of excitement flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. It was known that the price for entering Beima Cave Mansion was 100,000 battle achievements. And he had now obtained an abundance of battle achievements, which could be exchanged for a large number of treasures. Spirit Lord stood in front of Jian Wushuang and said politely, "Swordsman, those battle achievements can also be used outside the treasure vault. If you need a treasure that isn't in our vault, our camp will try to help you get it, as long as you pay enough battle achievements." He had heard about Jian Wushuang's amazing battle results in Puppet Master Cave Mansion. Oh. Jian Wushuang nodded inwardly. That's right. And there is another thing I need to discuss with you. Spirit Lord looked at Jian Wushuang and said seriously, "You know, we've lost many lords in this action and many of them were in charge of territories. Now they are dead, so those territories of course need new lords." Spirit Lord, you want me to take charge of a territory? Jian Wushuang asked in an odd tone. Yes. Spirit Lord nodded with a smile. Normally, if you have the strength of a novice lord, you're qualified to take charge of a territory. Now you have proved that you're strong enough to handle a territory. What's more, with such strength, you won't want to continue traveling in the flaming battlefield, will you? Jian Wushuang did not know how to react. Generally, Saint Realm experts would travel in the flaming battlefield, aside from any special cases. For example, if a new cave mansion emerged, the lords would turn up. Although Jian Wushuang was a Saint Realm expert, he was a bit stronger than an ordinary intermediate lord. It would be inappropriate for him to travel around the flaming battlefield. Moreover, he had lost interest in fighting in the flaming battlefield. In that case, I'd like to accept your suggestion, Jian Wushuang replied. I have a list of territories for you. Take a look and choose one as you like. Spirit Lord gave the list to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang started reading it. After a while he made his decision. This one, Jian Wushuang said while pointing at the name of a territory. Blood Sword Territory? Spirit Lord said with a smile, then I'll arrange it for you. 3 days later, Jian Wushuang went to Blood Sword Territory with a lord. Blood Sword Territory was larger than Iron Saber Territory and its previous owner was a novice lord. During this trip to Puppet Master Cave Mansion, that lord had no opportunity to enter the palace and was killed while fighting for treasures in the inner layer. Blood Sword Territory needed a new lord, so Jian Wushuang had come. Swordsman, that is Lord Mansion of Blood Sword Territory, a purple-clothed lady, Misty Heart Lord, said with a faint smile. I have sent a message and had those generals wait for you. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Let's go down. Jian Wushuang and Misty Heart Lord flew toward Lord Mansion. Like Iron Saber Territory, Blood Sword Territory had an army called the Blood Sword Army, which had 20 generals in it. Those generals held the same ranks as commanders of Iron Saber Territory. Normally, Saint Realm experts at Stage 2 held the post, and a few of the generals were experts at Stage 3. Now those generals were quietly waiting there. The new lord will arrive today, right? I wonder which lord will come. No matter who comes, he has to be an expert at the Cloud Realm, far superior to us. The generals were discussing it in secret. They had received the news that their lord had died and the Marquis Piaoxue camp sent a new lord to take charge of their territory. At this moment, 2 figures slowly descended from the sky and appeared in Lord Mansion. The generals raised their heads and looked at the 2 figures. That's Misty Heart Lord. But who is the other guy? Misty Heart Lord has her own territory and can't take charge of our territory, so is our lord the one beside her? He is the new lord. Those generals immediately frowned. Lords were almost always Cloud Realm experts who were more powerful than those generals. Therefore, as long as their new lord was a Cloud Realm expert or even just a novice lord, they would be obedient to him. However, the black-robed young man with a long sword on his back was just a Saint Realm expert. Chapter 472 Blood Sword Lord. Chapter 472, Blood Sword Lord. Gentlemen. Misty Heart Lord looked at the generals and spoke. This is your new lord, Swordsman. On hearing this, the generals all had an odd expression. He is really the new lord. You let a Saint Realm expert be our lord? Swordsman? I've just come back from the flaming battlefield. I've heard of him. He killed a heaven-defying level expert, Deng Hua. Though he is powerful with amazing skills, he is just a Saint Realm expert. I heard that several days ago, 2 camps lost numerous lords in the exploration of the cave mansion. Doesn't our camp have any other lords? So they perfunctorily sent a Saint Realm expert here? The generals were discontented with the new lord. They only knew about their new lord's previous battle results of killing Deng Hua, so they were surely dissatisfied with him. If they had witnessed their new lord's performance in the Puppet Master Cave Mansion, they would have changed their opinions. However, now they all thought that a heaven-defying level expert was not qualified to be a lord. Jian Wushuang and Misty Heart Lord knew what they were thinking from their facial expressions. Misty Heart Lord smiled while looking at Jian Wushuang. The young man remained silent, but emanated overwhelming killing intent. Then a blood river directly swept out. Road to the underworld, hundredfold realm, and blood fire domain were pulled together and surged forward. Suppressed by his powerful realm, those generals instantly fell down one by one. They tried to resist, but they could not stand up. They were all terrified. Swordsman, this is your realm technique? It's amazing. Misty Heart Lord acclaimed. Jian Wushuang gave a faint smile. If he exerted his full strength, his realm technique could suppress 30% of the strength of an advanced lord. It was no wonder that these experts at stage 2 or 3 were not even able to struggle for a second under his attack. Jian Wushuang slowly stretched out his hand and pointed to the generals who were kneeling in the blood river. Just then an immaterial wave spread out around them. Suddenly, those generals turned pale and felt as if they were suffering from chi deviation. I pay my respects to my lord. I pay my respects to my lord. All the generals shouted out in terror. The suppression was terrifying indeed. Facing such realm suppression, the generals were unable to resist, which meant their new lord's strength was far superior to a Saint Realm expert's. Even their previous lord did not have such strength. They immediately realized that the young man's battle strength might be superior to an ordinary lord. Therefore they submitted to him. Jian Wushuang nodded and waved his hand. Then the mighty blood river dissipated and the generals all became relieved. Stand up, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. All the generals stood up and looked in awe at Jian Wushuang. His methods had thoroughly subdued them. Fools! Misty Heart Lord, who had been watching all of this, said with a smile, because our camp has appointed Swordsman as your lord, we must have acknowledged his strength. Our camp has affirmed that he is qualified to be a lord, so why did you have any doubts? On hearing this, all the generals could not help lowering their heads. Fine. Misty Heart Lord shook her head and looked at Jian Wushuang. Swordsman? No. I should call you Blood Sword Lord. From now on you're in charge of the Blood Sword territory. Since I've finished my job, I shall leave now. Thanks, Misty Heart Lord, Jian Wushuang said while cupping his fist. Soon afterward, Misty Heart Lord left. Jian Wushuang looked at the group of generals, pointed to the most powerful one and asked, What's your name? Lord, I'm Bing Hua, the man replied immediately. Okay, aside from you the rest of the people can go. Jian Wushuang waved his hands. The other generals bowed and left. I've just arrived here, so I am not clear about the business of the Blood Sword territory. Tell me about it, Jian Wushuang said while staring at Bing Hua. Okay. Bing Hua nodded. The whole setup in the Blood Sword territory was similar to that in the Iron Saber territory, and there were many families there. Usually nothing special happened there. Therefore, Blood Sword Lord and the Blood Sword Army had a lot of free time. Lord, only the Dragon Blood Gem Mine needs your attention in our territory, Bing Hua said. The Dragon Blood Gem Mine? Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. He knew that the Dragon Blood Gem was a high-level gem, which was used for refining magic weapons. A complete Dragon Blood Gem Mine was valuable enough to attract the attention of ordinary lords. Bing Hua began to explain the reason why. Lord, a year ago we found a dragon blood gem mine in our territory and took it, but Magic Flame Lord heard about it. Magic Flame Lord is an intermediate lord, who acts in a tyrannical manner. He thought he was powerful so he wanted to step in. Our previous lord was a novice and unable to fight against him, so he could only compromise. During this year, our Blood Sword territory and the Magic Flame territory have shared the dragon blood gems 50-50. On hearing this, Jian Wushuang wore an odd expression. We found a blood gem mine in our territory and instantly took it, but the Magic Flame territory suddenly stepped in and grabbed 50% of the gems. This is... Jian Wushuang shook his head, but he understood. In this world, those who had power were respected. If he had not shown his strength to shock the generals, they would not have submitted to him. Chapter 473, The Dragon Blood Gem Mine. Chapter 473, The Dragon Blood Gem Mine. Magic Flame Lord is domineering. As we're part of the same camp and the Dragon Blood Gem Mine is in our territory, he agreed to share the gems with us 50-50. However, I heard that because our previous lord has died, Magic Flame Lord intended to hog all of it. Though you are our lord, I'm afraid Magic Flame Lord would not pay you any mind, Binghua said in a solemn tone. Oh really? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. He had read the information on Magic Flame Lord and knew about his character. Binghua, Jian Wushuang said while looking at him, let's go visit Magic Flame Lord. Visit Magic Flame Lord? No. Binghua was surprised. Yep, right now, Jian Wushuang replied with a faint smile. Soon after that they set out. The Magic Flame territory was next to the Blood Sword territory, so they had contact with each other. One day later, Jian Wushuang arrived at the Lord Mansion in the Magic Flame territory. Please tell your lord that Blood Sword Lord pays him a visit, Binghua said to a guard of the Lord Mansion. Blood Sword Lord? The guard glanced at Jian Wushuang and sneered. A Saint Realm expert dares to call himself Lord? Piss off. Binghua's face fell. But Jian Wushuang wore an indifferent expression as he slowly opened his mouth. Magic Flame Lord. Jian Wushuang cried out. His voice seemed to be full of magic, reverberating through the entire mansion and lasting for a long time. A peevish, glum elder had been absorbed in a manual when suddenly he heard the voice, narrowed his eyes and raised his head. When he stepped out and appeared in the sky above the mansion, he immediately saw Jian Wushuang with his hands behind his back. He is... Magic Flame Lord was shocked and a little bit angry. He had not participated in the exploration of the Puppet Master Cave Mansion, but he knew what had happened there. He knew many experts died and an expert named Swordsman rose in the fight. Swordsman was only a Saint Realm expert, but he had overwhelming strength, which could terrify intermediate lords. In the fight for the 4 interspatial rings, Swordsman killed Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord by using some techniques. Demon Soul Lord was a superior lord. Although Myriad Islands Lord was just an advanced lord, he was the top master of formations and was not weaker than a superior lord. However, they had all been killed by Swordsman. Moreover, Swordsman had a puppet fighter at the marquee level. Therefore, Swordsman had already become famous among the two camps. Sir, are you Swordsman? Magic Flame Lord went over and said with a smile as well as a hint of modesty. Sir? Binghua was a bit surprised as Magic Flame Lord treated Swordsman respectfully. Magic Flame Lord, your guard didn't let me in and was even unwilling to send a message for me, so I had to shout. Please excuse me, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. On hearing this, Magic Flame Lord's face fell. He looked toward his guards. The guard who had refused Danghua's request was terrified, dripping with cold sweat. Idiot, come and apologize to Sir Swordsman. Magic Flame Lord scolded him. The guard immediately kneeled down and offered his apology. Don't worry about it. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Then he looked at Magic Flame Lord and said, Magic Flame Lord, I've just taken up the post of Blood Sword Lord, so I came to pay you a visit. Blood Sword Lord? Magic Flame Lord was a bit shocked, but he immediately realized why Jian Wushuang had come here. Sir, no. Blood Sword Lord, let's go down and have a chat, Magic Flame Lord said. Fine. Jian Wushuang nodded and then gave an order to Binghua. Stay here. Okay. Binghua nodded respectfully. Jian Wushuang and Magic Flame Lord then left. Binghua stood in the void with an odd look on his face. What happened? Why did I feel that Magic Flame Lord was in awe of our Lord? Right, he must have been in awe of him. Otherwise he would not have treated our lord so politely. Not long after, Jian Wushuang walked out of the Lord mansion, while Magic Flame Lord personally saw him out. "Binghua, let's go," Jian Wushuang said. Then they left for the Blood Sword territory. Magic Flame Lord finally felt relieved. On the way back to the Blood Sword territory, Binghua asked in curiosity, "Lord, what did you say to Magic Flame Lord?" "Nothing. We were just having a courteous talk and I casually mentioned the Dragon Blood Gem mine," Jian Wushuang said. "Casually mentioned?" Binghua frowned. "Right, that was enough," Jian Wushuang said with a smile. "Don't worry, Magic Flame Lord is not stupid. He should know what to do." On hearing this, Binghua did not ask anything further. Soon after they came back, Binghua received the news that the people from the Magic Flame territory had withdrawn from the Dragon Blood Gem mine and clearly indicated that they would not step foot in the mine again. Binghua was stunned. In his mind, Magic Flame Lord was extremely domineering. When did he become so kind? Binghua did not know that Magic Flame Lord was just overbearing toward the weak, like the previous Blood Sword Lord, who was a novice lord. But when it came to Jian Wushuang, things were different. Even an advanced lord or a superior lord would treat Jian Wushuang politely. Magic Flame Lord was just an intermediate lord, so he did not dare to act in a domineering manner. He even worried that he might piss off Jian Wushuang and get killed by him. The Dragon Blood Gem mine and even the Blood Sword territory calmed down. Jian Wushuang had solidified his position. The 5th day after they returned, the Marquis Piaoxue camp sent something to him. Finally, Jian Wushuang thought with a hint of expectation. The thing that the courier had sent here cost Jian Wushuang 80,000 battle achievements. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.